Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. This is Kristen Maka with Futurity First Insurance Group, and welcome to Kristen's Nuggets of Knowledge. So last week, unfortunately, I was reminded that cancer can affect a lot of people in our lives. And I just wanted today to be a service announcement, and also stay in tune because at the end of my service announcement, I am going to share with you a couple of dip recipes. One of them is going to be my guacamole recipe, and another one is just going to be a salsa recipe. So stick tuned for that. And are you ready to go grab today's little nugget of knowledge? Let's go, shall we? Unfortunately, cancer affects a lot of different people. Those close to us, those far away. Friends, family, neighbors, even ourselves. And it's an unfortunate part of life. Even those who are very healthy can eventually end up getting cancer. And it is one of the most difficult parts of my job, is bringing up and discussing the difficult topics. And cancer is one of them. There's a lot of insurances that people want to get, like life insurance, critical illness, cancer insurance, even looking to reevaluate their Medicare supplement insurance. But sometimes, for some reason or another, people put it off. They're like, oh, I'm in great health. I want to wait until next year, next summer, whatever it may be. And sometimes that's a little too late. And unfortunately, it has come up in my life and in my job a couple of times recently. So I wanted to have this talk of if life insurance, critical illness insurance, or relooking over your Medicare supplement is something that you've thought about doing but have just put off for one reason or another. I know life does get busy. But sometimes those things are best not put off, because a lot of times if companies know that in your health records that you have had cancer, even some companies, will go back 4 or 5 years in your health records. And if you've had a specific cancer, they will deny you of the insurance. So it's better to have these discussions now rather than later, and talking about what do you have on hand to cover things like final expense or medical bills. So I'm sorry to take things down a little note, but that conversation is one that must be had. And I know it's very difficult to listen to and uncomfortable, but that is why I made sure you stuck to the very end, because I'm going to now share my guacamole and salsa recipes. All right, so here we've got all the ingredients for my guacamole, and I am adverse to cilantro, so for me it tastes like soap, so I opt not to put it in. But if you were to put it in, that is, of your choice, and you can choose how much or how little to put in it. But for the amount that we're going to be doing today, I don't think I would recommend any more than a bunch. All right, so all the ingredients here, I've got the avocados, I've got white onion, I've got garlic, I've got tomato, lime, and salt, and then tequila. Now, this is only about a teaspoon of tequila, so don't think I'm going crazy over here. It's just to give a little extra kick of flavor. More or less, it's like when you're baking, when you put in vanilla extract into something, it just kind of amps it up a little bit. So first off, when we're talking about aguacates, these were the best pick at the store. But I always like to pick something that, when you're picking limes or lemons, you want to pick something with a nice soft skin, not too many bumps like this one. And this has a little bit of green. The greener it is, the less ripe it is, and the darker it gets, the more ripe it is. And you want something that's a little bit firm, but not too soft, yet something that's not rock hard. So please be careful when you're working with avocados. I know that the majority of people aren't very safe when they're doing avocados. But please just make sure to keep your hands safe. So this is a beautiful looking aguacate. And take out the pit. And I use just a regular old spoon to scoop out the flesh right into my bowl. And do the rest to your avocados. Today, I was just showing this one just for the effect of the skin, but it is a little bit too ripe to use, so today we'll just be using these 4. Next, I put in my tequila in with the avocado, and you can use a fork if they're soft enough, or I use also a potato masher to get these guys all mashed up. All right, next up, we've got all the rest of the ingredients. Let's put in the lime juice. The lime juice helps the avocado from browning. So all depending on also your taste in limes. For this one, I do a lot of my cooking by eye because you see we've got their limes here are kind of small. They're not very large. And then, of course, all depending the yield on the juice of these. But we probably want to do 1 small lime for every 2 avocados. But some of these small limes, even though they're tiny, it yields a lot of juice. So let's get the juice going. Finishing off the recipe with inclusions. So whether you enjoy garlic, onion, tomato, cilantro, we're just going to do these 3 right here. Crush it. And then fine chop. Let's get our tomato in there. All depending on your preference, you can either include the guts or not, or just use the flesh. I always take out the insides. And the last add-on our onion, and onion is very potent, so it just kind of is to your preference. But for this amount, I would just do 1 small slice. Onion, all depending, can be extremely potent. And just like the garlic, I'm gonna really fine dice this. And add in some salt in, probably about maybe 1/4 teaspoon there. And there you have it, perfect guacamole for chips and dip. All right, so on to salsas. Now with salsas, we have a whole bunch of different ingredients right here. When you're at the Mexican restaurants, sometimes they'll have red salsa, sometimes they'll have green salsa. So if it's red salsa, they're using regular Roma tomatoes, and if it's the green salsa, they're using tomatillos. Now, some people get a little bit scared of these because they're in these little baskets or skins or whatnot. I call them little baskets, but they are sticky, which kind of threw me off the first time I started to work with them. But sometimes if you just throw them in water, it makes peeling off these skins really easy. Now, when you're doing different salsas, there's many different ways you can prepare it. The ways that I've learned or been taught is, so you've got your bases, which are either the Roma tomatoes or the tomatillos, and then your hot ingredients, so dried chilies or your jalapenos or serranos. I always like to have 2 cuts of onion, no matter what base I'm doing, whether it's the tomato or the tomatillo. I always do 2 cuts of onion that are, what is that, maybe a 1/2 inch thick. So a total of 1 inch of onion. And then, all depending how I'm preparing it, I add them in, as well as I enjoy garlic. So I normally am a little bit more heavy on the garlic, so 2 cloves per batch. But when you're working with your base and then your add-ons, you can either boil it, saute in a little bit of oil to cook your base and then the inclusions, or you can grill them or char them. So get them in a pan, don't have any oil or anything like that. I always put down a liner of foil and then cook them until they're blackened on all sides. With the peppers, I always like to just remove the stems, and then the garlic, before I add it, I crush it. And at the very end, after everything is cooked, put it into a blender and, add as much water for your consistency and salt for taste. If you want to, you can always put a couple little pinches of cilantro in there. What we'll do today is we will boil our tomatoes with the onion and the garlic, as well as our red chilies, and then I will saute our tomatillos along with, not all of these peppers. That may be a little bit too spicy. I may just do the serranos. And then I'll include, in this side, I'll also include 2 garlic, as well as 2 cuts of the onion. All right, so not much to see. I just put everything. We've got the crushed garlic, we've got the tomatoes, we've got the onion and the dried chilies, and get it in the pot and bring it up to a boil. And I always like to cover it. I don't put the water all the way to the top. I normally put it so that it's just barely got this last row in there. And bring it to a boil and then cook it all the way through. All right, so my tomato mix has cooled down quite a bit, and I've got my salt here. Just gonna take a nice spoonful of that, toss that in there, and get this processed. Alright, I like to make sure that it is very well blended. And now we just need to taste test. So, right now I'm taste testing for consistency as well as salt. As I said before, whether you're processing it boiling, frying, or grilling it, you're going to get a lot different flavor profile. I've got everything for the tomatillos ready. All right, so there's my garlic. I had a very, very large clump of it, so instead of having 2 cloves, I just had 1 large clove. But with all of this, I'm going to heat it up, and I'm gonna cook it with some oil. As things start to cook, I will take it off. But when you're going on here, you're trying just to let it saute and not burn. All right, so I've turned some over. I've pulled out the garlic just to kind of catch you up. I'm trying not to get any darker than what you see here on these ones. So I had to turn the heat down a little bit. Right now it's probably on medium-low. So these bigger ones, I put it on very, very low, the lowest setting I could. And you see how, yeah, they eventually turn this very dark green color. So when that happens, we can take them off and set them aside. I'm going to dump everything, the tomatillos, the garlic, the onions, everything in there. And I'm going to put some water in there, another spoonful of salt. And go ahead and process this. All right, get to taste this one. Woo! Man, those 3 serranos are kicking it. Woo! That's nice. But there you go. 2 different homemade salsas and homemade guacamole. I hope that you've enjoyed a little nugget or 2 today. I know the recipes are going to be a hit wherever you go. And please don't put off the difficult conversations. If this is something that you've been looking into, the life insurance, critical illness insurance, cancer insurance, looking at your Medicare supplements again, please don't hesitate to reach out and give me a shout. There is always 5 or 10 minutes to have a quick discussion on the insurance. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Please have a blessed rest of your week. Take care. We'll see you later.